Welcome to The Artist Matters. I'm Alex Rudy, and each week you will meet incredible artists from all walks of life. Filmmakers, writers, actors, painters, musicians, and so many more, sharing their stories to motivate and inspire the creative in you. Whether you're doing it for fun or looking to make a living, this show will help you on your journey to bring out the artist within and letting the world know that your art matters. Hey everyone, welcome to The Artist Matters. I'm your host, Alex Rudy, and it is the week of Thanksgiving. So I'm thankful that you're here to join me and having another guest on the show, finally. I know last week I had to do an episode by myself. Hopefully it was helpful and enjoyable to everybody. I'm kind of looking forward to Thanksgiving. The original plan was my sister and niece were coming down, but on Monday of last week, she canceled. She's moving into a new house and just doesn't want to leave things in disarray when she comes down here and goes back up. Understandable, but disappointing. Had some colorful ideas of spending time and doing some activities, but those plans have been dashed. What you going to do? So we just have to improvise in the most creative way possible. Which the plan is, you may laugh at this, people, but we're planning to go to IHOP and then afterwards go to Busch Gardens. Why not? Hey, gotta improvise sometimes and use those creative skills to make Thanksgiving enjoyable. It'll be just nice to have 4 days off from the day job and spend time on my woman. And of course, get together other episodes of The Artist Matters. So welcome to this episode, which is officially episode number 39. And today we have another guest from the Don't Keep Your Day Job Facebook group. Yep, the one I put out like midsummer and got a flood of artists wanting to be on. And finally was able to schedule time with today's guest. She is writer-author Drema Drudge. She has been writing in one capacity or another since she was 9, starting with, as she may state, some terrible poems and graduating to melodramatic stories in junior high. But she soon discovered that there are books, classes, and programs on writing and learned how to write. She has an MFA in creative writing from Spalding University. Drema's work has been published in various locations like the Louisville Review, Mused, ATG, Penumbra, Woolf Zine, the same. And also she is a regular contributor to the Chicken Soup for the Soul series. And a great deal of our discussion is about her novel that's coming out next year called Victorine. Inspiration came from seeing this piece of art about Victorine and then actually coming face to face with the sculpture of this muse. Now, she began writing this novel overseas and ended up traveling to many countries and writing this novel in 6 different countries. Yes, I kid you not. She'll go on to explain why she did it this way, how her writing process is, the importance of reading books, especially in your genre, and also what she thinks makes for a good story, and so much more. She gives advice, and it's a really nice chat. I'm glad I connected with her. So without further ado, sit back, enjoy, and listen to my chat with Drema Drudge. Okay, let's welcome to the show, Drema Drudge. Hi.
Hi, Alex. How are you?
Great. Glad to have you on, finally.
Thank you. It's a privilege and an honor to be speaking with you this morning.
Yeah, you're one of the don't keep your day job
people that reached out to me, right?
That's right, yes.
It was like all of a sudden I got flooded by, everybody wants to be on the show. Like, okay.
Yeah, and I appreciate it. I thought, I'm not prominent enough to be on his show, but that's why I was so pleased when you agreed to have me on.
Oh, yeah, your art matters, which is writing.
Oh, absolutely.
So, where did you grow up?
Well, I was born in New Jersey, and my parents were from West Virginia, so when I was about 8, they decided to go back to their homeland, if you will.
So was there a lot of creative inspiration in West Virginia?
That was where I fell in love with nature, and nature has always played a large part in my writing. So yes, I think that definitely did play a large part. And also, I didn't know that my grandfather was a poet until we moved to West Virginia. He had passed away, and that was one of the things I learned when we moved back there, was that he was a poet, and I was fascinated. I'd never heard that, real people could write.
And you got to read his poems?
And I got to read some of his poems, absolutely. And so I think that was my way to try to connect with him, because, there were a few pictures of him holding me when I was a baby, when I was a toddler, but I didn't really remember him. And I wanted desperately to connect with him. And so when I realized he had poetry, I read them, and I tried to write. The first thing I tried to write was a poem, and it was really bad, but it was like about the sunrise. And I remember that. That's all I remember about it. And I thought, I don't think I'm my grandpa, but I still fell in love with writing, and I've obviously been doing it ever since.
Was there any other creative outlet that you explored, or was it writing that captured you right away?
Well, this sounds silly and maybe obvious, but I loved Play-Doh as a child. I loved sculpting things, and then, moved up to some clay. So I think I've always been a visual person and not always known it. So it took a while to figure that out. But yeah, definitely, the kinesthetics of holding the Play-Doh or the clay, and then the colors, trying to mix them together and make pinks and blues and trying to make purple and that sort of thing from a pretty young age.
And that smell.
Oh, right? Yeah, that salty smell. I have to confess, I did, nibble now and again on it.
Made for some colorful indigestion, but I was there myself.
Right, exactly. Even though you knew you shouldn't, you just couldn't resist, right?
Yeah, of course. So, what kind of things were you writing besides poems as a little girl?
Well, not so much as a little girl, but a little later, I started, first of all, I tried to write Nancy Drew books. I wanted to write mysteries, but I loved Nancy Drew, loved Trixie Belden and that sort of thing. And my mom was trying to give me creative criticism, of course, saying, oh, this reminds me of a Nancy Drew book. But my mind went, oh, maybe I'm trying to sound too much like Nancy Drew, and really I should have been, wow, I'm 10 and I'm writing the Carolyn Keene series, Nancy Drew books. So from there, I decided maybe that wasn't my strong suit. So I started making up stories. Another thing that I encountered when we moved to West Virginia, the family started telling me that we had Native American heritage, which I didn't know about, and I still honestly haven't been able to find a lot about. So it may be a little more myth than not. But I also grew up right beside the family cemetery. And in the cemetery, there were tombstones that were hard to read, but I spent a lot of time there. And there was one that I kept trying to read, and I couldn't understand what it said, but it was old enough that, the letters were just very faint. And the name looked to me like Aramethea. So in my mind, there was this beautiful, person of Native American heritage, and, there were horses. So I started writing stories called Aramethea the Wild. This was when I was a teen, and those were the stories I mentioned before when we talked about how I passed those around in literature class, and it was very intoxicating because the cheerleader in the class would read it and oh, give me the next page, and then someone else would pass it to another person in the class, and that was a level of popularity I kind of wasn't used to, so it was heady.
Now, were you writing the entire story or letting people read parts of the story?
At that point, I think I had written Well, I started out writing like 5 pages, and then when they told me they wanted more, I was like, okay, I can do this. And so I think it only ended up being 13 pages, and I have no idea. Sad to say, I don't know what has happened to it. I just remember the very melodramatic nature. Lots of horses, lots of wind in the hair, galloping across, the mountains or what have you. That's what I mostly remember.
Wherever inspiration comes from, right?
Exactly.
Now you went to Spalding University. And how was their writing program?
It is fantastic. I couldn't recommend it enough. From what I understand, some programs aren't quite so supportive and they're a little cutthroat. This was the complete opposite. I mean, I'm just thrilled with where I landed. You become a real writing family. And, I still am in contact with even the people I didn't meet in the program. There's like a Facebook, alum group, and we're very supportive of one another. We really appreciate one another, and I just can't say enough good things about it. It was the perfect place for me at the perfect time.
Was that in West Virginia?
No, actually, that's out of Louisville, Kentucky. So I took a little break from college, and I went ahead and I did what I call the mommy track. Raised the kids, and then I went back to school. And after that, one of my professors said, well, have you considered grad school? Well, no, I hadn't. And come to find out, there's this thing called an MFA, a Master of Fine Arts in Creative Writing, and I didn't know that existed. It's a terminal degree, and I was just thrilled. I was like, okay, this sounds good. So I started looking around at programs, and I found out there was this program that offers an abroad option. And so I was able to travel and get, credit. So what we would do is we would meet about 2 weeks a year. They would pick a place, like a country. So we went all over the place, Paris, we went to Ireland, we went to Scotland. And so you would be there for 2 weeks. You would be there for very intense classes and workshops and that sort of thing. And then you would be assigned a mentor, and you would work with the mentor, like for the next 9 months, either through the mail or over the internet. And very, very hands-on, very supportive. It was amazing.
Mentors do make a difference.
Oh, absolutely, yes.
Now, when you were doing this traveling abroad, is this where you wrote that first novel in 6 different countries?
Exactly. Yes, yes.
What was that novel about?
Well, that's the novel Victorine that's coming out.
Oh, that is the one. Okay.
It is it, yeah. And so I'm really excited. I saw a painting, because, I'm addicted to education. And so while I was in this MFA program, now remember I had just finished up my bachelor's degree, and I was transferring over, getting ready to do this MFA program. But the college that I graduated from with my bachelor's is in my hometown. So I continued to take enrichment classes at the college in literature and art. And so I saw this painting of Victorine called Olympia. And it's by Edouard Manet. And I just felt like there was more to be noticed about the painting. The instructor was just showing a slideshow. He was showing, and here's this during this time period. He was talking a little bit, but of course you don't have time to go in depth, really studying a painting. And when he put her up there, I just felt like this painting, Olympia, there's more to the story, and I would like to know what that is. And fortuitously, the Spalding program, the second year, this would be my second year of Spalding at this point, they went to Paris, and I was able to stand in front of her and look at her. And I just felt this connection, and I was like, okay, I'm going to write about this. I'm going to write about this person. I'm going to find out what I can find out about her.
Wow, talk about inspiration. You're
exactly.
Right there. Wow. Little backpedal, what was your first published work?
A very long time ago. Well, I said I gave up poetry, but that's not entirely true. So our church's youth group had a newsletter, and, our youth leader tried to get us all to contribute something, so I wrote a poem. I sort of stole an old form of a poem, and then I added on to it. Now I lay me down to sleep, but then I put, if they call off school before, I forget something like if you call off school, I pray you call off school before I wake, or something like that, because there's nothing worse than having, you get up and you get ready and school is called off, and then you're already awake. So that was my big debut, was in the church newsletter.
And you mentioned in your bio that you had some involvement with Chicken Soup for the Soul.
I've written several essays. I think now they call them stories. At first they used to call them essays. So I had a friend who was involved with trying to publish a similar anthology.